Holy shishka balls. They are not messing around with this episode.
No, they're not. I was really entertained by this. To your point, well, I don't want to spoil it, but the way it ends is just perfect for me. I don't want to give it away here, so we'll just come back to that. But a lot of emotion. It's just really well done, well written.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you are watching part 2 of tonight's 3-part show. We just finished part 1, where we both did a tasting of Elijah Craig small batch bourbon. And Ken, where would you rank the Elijah Craig small batch bourbon?
Well, that's an interesting question. And, I'm not the most excited about it. I don't know about you. I don't know. I'd rank it about a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. How about yourself?
I think that's fair. I keep going back to it burns clean, and it keeps burning clean, and it keeps burning clean, and it never stops burning clean.
I think it slightly gets in the way of the flavor, from my perspective. I can't place my finger on it, but that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I just think, considering the other bourbons that we've had on this show, we've had far better than what we're drinking tonight.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's not going to keep me from pouring another glass, though.
Nor has it I. Okay, so before we jump into tonight's episode of Sons, I want to quickly remind everyone to please like and subscribe, click the little bell at the top of your page so you don't miss any future shows, and be sure to leave us your questions and comments in the comments section below, or you can email your questions to us at ask@bourbonbros, that's BROS.TV. And remember that if your question doesn't suck, we may answer it on a future show. All right, let's get into tonight's discussion of Sons of Anarchy, Season 1, Episode 8, titled The Pull, which, Ken, holy shishka balls. They are not messing around with this episode.
No, they're not.
Original air date, October 22nd, 2008. This episode was co-written with both Kurt Sutter and Jack Logiotis. If I probably did not pronounce that correctly, but Jack has written a previous episode. So now we have Jack and Kurt coming together to write this episode. Let me give a quick synopsis and then we'll talk overall impressions.
Sure.
So we've got Darby, who's the leader of the Nords, receives an envelope in the mail with some incriminating evidence linking Sam Crow to the IRA. Darby offers the intel to Mayans leader Marcus Alvarez in exchange for, dun dun dun, the murder of Clay Morrow. With the IRA gun payment looming, Sam Crow scrambles to come up with the remaining cash. Half-Sack decides he needs an ambulance. Alvarez leaves the hit of Clay to his son, and you can almost guess how that goes. After Sam Crow's new IRA connection is shot, Half-Sack's new ambulance comes to the rescue. The Mayans also try to murder Darby, and things go just as well as the Clay hit. Agent Cone left town. Oh, no, he didn't. He makes one final appearance as we see all of his crazy creepiness. Jax and Tara end up channeling their inner Tig. Meanwhile, Sam Crow and the Mayans prepare to go to war. Boy, Ken, there's a lot to unpack in this episode.
Yeah, there definitely is. I was really entertained by this. To your point, well, I don't want to spoil it, but the way it ends is just perfect for me. I don't want to give it away here, so we'll just come back to that. But a lot of emotion. It's just really well done, well written.
Yeah, and I got to say, we've had some great episodes, right, that we've already covered, and we're only on episode 8 of season 1. But there are those shows where there's an episode that initiates what I refer to as binge-initis. Where once you see that episode, you are compelled to start binge watching more episodes. You have to know what happens next. For me, this is one of those episodes.
Yeah, this is definitely a turning point.
And
I'd put it right up there with the top 2 or 3 so far that we've seen.
absolutely. Yeah. And it reminds me of shows like Breaking Bad, right? These shows that have a reputation for binge-initis. This episode just strikes all the right chords. It hits all the right notes.
Gets you hooked. Pulls you in.
So, question for you, Ken. Did we have any new characters introduced in this episode?
Good question. Did we have any? The one that I can recall is Michael McKeevy's cousin. I believe his name was Cameron Hayes.
Yep. Good pull.
He shows up there as they're, I don't want to jump ahead, but as they're exchanging money there, he shows up, and Clay's unaware of it. They're unaware. They're going to run to him, but he's introduced there in this episode.
Yeah, we'll just say he's taking over for McKeevy.
That's fair.
We'll get into the reason why later. So, yeah, and I think that's the only one as far as a recurring character.
Yep.
All right, so let's summarize kind of the main storylines for this episode. Again, starting with the ones that are more episodic, you have the Nords and the Mayans conspiring to kill Clay, which that's a pretty big deal this episode. You have the Nords who then steal a tanker truck only to have it stolen back from them. You have Half Sack who steals an ambulance because he wants to try to raise $15K. We'll talk about that. And then, as we mentioned in the synopsis, Cone, who, based on last episode, we assume has left town and is done, reappears and assaults Tara.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big part of our conversation tonight. But before we get into that, there's also kind of some recurring storylines, right? We have Sam Crow, who is continuing to raise money to pay the IRA for the guns, right? And they're kind of quickly approaching the deadline for that. You've had this ongoing issue, I think, from the pilot of this rift between Jax and Clay, and it's becoming Jax and the rest of the club as Jax reads more of his father's journals and starts to question some of the motives of the club. You've got Jax and Tara's romantic tension that has kind of been brewing for several episodes, but they've both been kind of keeping that at arm's length. And then we mentioned that Cone attacked Tara. There's been this ongoing creepiness of Cone, and we can finally say that creepiness comes to an end in this episode.
Thank God.
So I think I already know what your favorite storyline is. But as you reflect on the episode as a whole, what about the episode did you kind of really like or enjoy?
Just, I think the way it ended, just again, I don't want to jump ahead, but that's my favorite part of this whole episode. I was entertained by the storyline, trying to pay the IRA off for their debts there. It was humorous that Half Sack stole the ambulance, which turned out to be a blessing later. But I don't know. I was just entertained by the whole thing.
Yeah, and I know we've said this before, so it sounds a little bit like a broken record, but this really is one of those episodes that has everything, right? There's drama, there's comedy, there's violence. You're uncomfortable at certain points. You're cheering at certain points. You're afraid of what's going to happen at certain points. Like, it has everything. And if I didn't know better, I would say that the episode is so strong, it kind of reminds you of what you tend to see in like a finale.
Yeah, especially with the way it closed.
So let's jump into some of our top moments. I'm going to let you kick things off. Give me a top moment that you enjoyed.
One that jumps out to me was Gemma's acting when she is approaching Luann at her place of business to try and to ask for some money to help the club out because they need to pay their debts back. And just the chilling way that she
Treats a friend.
And as a friend. And when her friend chimed back to her that, okay, I can get my hands on most of what you're asking for, but it's going to be at a 20% premium. Just the way Gemma quickly turned and said,
You better rethink that percentage. Bad shit happens to greedy whores.
but just that scene, that dialogue, that jumped out to me.
Yeah, and just to give some context, so in church, the club is trying to come up with the rest of the money. They've kind of tallied everything that they have. And it's decided that Luann is doing quite well in the porn business. And so they decide to tap Luann for the remainder of the money. And they know that Luann and Gemma are friends. And so Jax asked Gemma to be the one to go to Luann. And yeah, I mean, knowing that they're friends, and you think back to recent episodes where Luann has helped Gemma, man, that's cold, Ken.
Yeah.
That's cold.
Hey, but it worked because she modified her ask and lowered her commission to 5%, and off they went. She had her money.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not this impacts their relationship moving forward. All right, so that's a great one. I want to talk about, I would say it's kind of a B or C storyline, but it was kind of a fun one. I refer to it as Crank and Charming, which is the trucker accident.
Yes.
So there's a lot of aspects and nuances to this, but I love how, Jax is just on his way to wherever he's going, probably back to the clubhouse, comes across this accident, and everybody's just kind of standing around looking at what happened. And Jax, right, the outlaw, immediately springs into action to rescue this trucker and is almost incredulous that no one is trying to help. I love that little aspect, right, where he's actually the only one out of this group of people that are trying to help this guy. And then in the course of all the commotion around this injured truck driver, he finds that on the floorboard of the truck is a little bag of crank.
Hold on, sir.
So that leads to a discussion at church, and the question on the table is they assume the drugs came from Darby. The accident happened in Charming. So the question is Darby now dealing in Charming, which is a no-no?
Right. And who jumps out as someone that reacts very quickly to that?
Our good friend
to that
Tig.
premise.
See, Darby's making his move into Charming, dealing at that lumber mill. Clay, we gotta send this Nazi asshole a clear message now.
All right.
Yeah, and again, Jax is the one that's thinking, right, taking a more pragmatic approach and saying, hey, this very, very well could be true, but it's not that hard to go and ask the trucker and verify.
Why don't we just go talk to the driver? Ask him why he bought the meth.
He just thinks logically, on his feet. Again, back to reading what his dad's writing.
That's right.
And even Clay kind of looks at him and went, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, go do that.
Yeah, he shut it down.
And it's even the little things like Jax, like ripping his jacket out from under Tig's arm, and you see the look from Tig. Like, Tig's pissed. Jax is kind of peacocking a little bit, right? I'm VP. That doesn't sit well with Tig. So you see the start of this riff, right? But it really sets up a lot of aspects of the rest of the episode, which we're going to talk about in some of our other top moments, I'm sure.
Right.
All right, you're up. What do you got next?
All right, well, I think as a follow-on to that kind of topic around the accident, that when they go to the hospital to talk to the gentleman that's been injured.
Yeah, the truck driver.
Yeah, the truck driver. Jax finds out that the truck has been stashed, okay? And that he's
I
kind
think
of
it's
an
an
entrepreneur.
impound.
Yeah, that's right. It's an impound. And they're trying to figure out a way to get that truck out of impound. And Jax devises a plan. Help me out here. but he becomes an entrepreneur.
If you remember, when he and Opie first walked into the hospital, they see two Nords leaving.
Darby's guys. Can't be good.
And then they go into the hospital room, and the truck driver has basically had the shit beat out of him by the Nords.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so as they question the guy explains that he's in debt to the Nords, right? Due to his drug habit. He owes them money. And since he didn't have the money, he discloses that the Nords are stealing his truck full of thousands of dollars of diesel fuel, which the truck driver is now worried that he's going to be fired because of that.
Yeah, and he's working for. Look, the truck was owned by Oswald.
That's right. So again, this is where I love Jax in his shrewd thinking. And again, you think about the chessboard and being 3 moves ahead. He immediately puts together like this guy knows that it's the Nords that are stealing the truck, and they're going to sell the diesel fuel to pay off his gambling debt. So he decides, we need money for the Irish. Why don't we steal the truck from them and sell the diesel fuel to raise money to pay for the guns? And that's what they do.
Jax is thinking 3 steps ahead, and he knows who would be in the market for some fuel.
Our good friend, Chief Unser. And why would Unser want diesel fuel?
For his trucks, because he's running trucks and...
That's right.
What?
He owns his own trucking company.
He's trucking company.
And I love when he meets with Unser, and Unser says,
Jesus Christ. Can you at least pretend I'm a cop sometime?
This is great. So yeah, Jax sells the truck to Unser after they steal it from the Nords and raise the remaining cash they need for the Irish.
Right. So Jax helped come up with the money that was needed, and at the same time, he proved what?
Yes, he proved that the drugs came from Pope, not Charming.
Not Charming.
You get a chance to talk to that tanker driver?
Yeah, Nords aren't dealing at the mill. Drive both crank up in Pope. It's where he filled his tanker with diesel. That I just sold to Unser. Flush for the Irish.
So his logical thinking is paying off, but it's also kind of getting to other members of the club, Tig included.
Yeah, Tig is not happy because you've basically got Jax, who's now the hero, right? Forget about the fact that he proved the drugs came from Pope, which is definitely an FU to Tig, but he was the one that brought in the cash they needed. So he's now the golden boy, and you can see Tig is pissed.
Right.
But they've got the cash, and so that leads to the meeting.
Right. So you want to take that one?
Yep. So that's my next moment. It's when Clay and Tig go to meet McKeevy to pay off the guns, and McKeevy's not there. And they soon learn that Cameron is there, which is a cousin of McKeevy, and Cameron shares that McKeevy has been killed.
Where is he?
He's dead.
Jesus.
I love, again, the attention to detail. You know, you could see the storyline. Let's say McKeevy wasn't available. They wrote him out at the show. So this is a device they create to hand it off to the next person. I love how it wasn't just nice and neat and, okay, you're the guy we deal with now and continue on. Here's your money. They're like, you know, I don't know you. I don't trust you. Right. And Cameron has to kind of prove that he is who he says he is. He shows them a photo with him and McKeevy together. And McKeevy
the photo
doesn't.
Was enough.
Yeah,
the
and
photo was
McKeevy,
enough to authenticate.
It is, but also Cameron doesn't trust them. He goes and counts the money.
Right.
Right. So it's very authentic when you have two people coming together that don't know one another. Cameron references that their reputation of Clay and Sam Crow is very high for McKeevy, but he doesn't know. So it's that trust but verify.
Yeah.
But that's not where it ends. You have the Mayans who, after meeting with Darby, has decided to team up and agree to try to kill Clay and kind of take over the Charming. And Alvarez's fatal flaw was basically enlisting his son to do this. And so he and his cronies decide to be the professional hit squad. And let's just say they don't exactly qualify as professionals.
The hell you guys want?
Definite rookies.
It went bad in a hurry and didn't get much better after that.
Right.
And so obviously they kill a couple of the Mayans. They can tell from the tattoos that they're Mayans. Tig is ready. He's ready to deal out retribution right here and now. Mm-hmm. And I love how Tig is so laser focused on that eye for an eye. Like, you try to kill us, we're now going to murder all of you. Mm-hmm. But for Clay, you can see that Clay realizes, right? He knows what it means. This is going to be a long and bloody war.
Yeah.
That they don't need.
Not something that ends quickly.
No.
I think another point there to mention is that in that scene, Cameron gets a pretty serious wound in his leg.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
Back of his leg.
Absolutely. He gets shot.
Mm-hmm. He gets shot. And that, let me jump in if you're done there.
Yeah,
my
go
next
for it.
Point.
Jump in.
And this is where conveniently Half-Sack shows up for transport with his newly stolen ambulance.
Freddy's Infirmary at your service. Now, sure.
Just even back at Teller Motors, when the rest of the club shows up after they're trying to save Cameron and stabilize him. Just when they walk in and they see the ambulance there, they're like, "What is this? Where did this come from?"
And again, if you go back to church, right? After they were talking about what needed to happen and raising money for the Irish, I think it was Chibbs who basically pulled Half-Sack and said, like, if you want that top rocker, you better go find 15 grand.
Yep.
And so Half-Sack's solution was steal an ambulance.
Oh, no, you're not. Yes, you are.
Steal an ambulance.
That was great.
And I think before that all went down, Clay made a comment like, "Hey, get rid of this thing after dark. Just ditch it."
Right, because they can't really sell it, right? Like, who are they going to sell a stolen ambulance to? Ridiculous.
Yeah, turned out to be a good move.
Blessing in disguise. Mm-hmm. And that's going to do it for part 2. Again, remember to like and subscribe. Check out our channel for more shows. And be sure to join us for part 3, where we're going to continue I guess somewhat enjoying some Elijah Craig. And we're going to wrap up our discussion of Sons of Anarchy, Season 1, Episode 8, titled The Pull. Stay with us.